Good afternoon, Neuro, and welcome to Gael Zone. Alongside my co-host Frank LaBella, I'm Chris Cilauro. We're bringing you up to speed in sports around Iona, New York, and the nation. On Saturday, the men's lacrosse team took on Bryan University in Rhode Island. The Gaels kept things interesting in the first half, thanks to a hat trick from redshirt freshman Luke Neary. It was Neary's first collegiate hat trick and his fifth multi-goal game this season. Despite the output, the Gaels were outplayed in the second half, unable to hold on against the Bulldogs. The Gaels return to New Rochelle tomorrow for some MAC play against Quinnipiac in their last home game of the regular season. Frank, what's going on with our women's lacrosse team?
For the women's team, on Saturday, the Gaels took on the Siena Saints at Hickey Field. The Gaels battled, but ultimately fell short in a 13-6 loss. Abby Axe and Casey Scarduzio led the way for Iona's offense with 2 goals apiece. Unfortunately, it was not enough for the Gaels. The Gaels will look to finish their season strong against Merrimack at Senior Day, Saturday at 11 p.m. at Mazzella Field. Now, Chris, let's head over to the Diamond, check out what's going on with baseball.
Iona baseball took on LIU on Wednesday in a non-conference matchup, but fell to the Sharks 10-4. The Gaels came into this game on a 4-game win streak and felt like they were going to keep the momentum going with a 2-run home run by Malachi Costello in the top of the first. They then would surrender the lead in the bottom half of the second inning and would not be able to catch up for the remainder of the game. LIU scored all 10 of their runs in the first 3 innings, and both offenses cooled off after that. As the 7th run, two innings would be the main factor in the win for the Sharks. For Iona, redshirt freshman Tyler Acevedo was the bright spot, going 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. The Gaels continue MAC conference play with a 3-game series on the road against St. Peter's today at 3 p.m. So Frank, let's talk a little bit about this Iona baseball team. And let's bring it back to last weekend. A very huge series win for the Gaels, picking up a MAC conference play against the Sacred Heart Pioneers, and one particular person that had a very good game, and we just mentioned it before, was Malachi Costello. Let's bring up the stats and just show you in the past 5 games what Malachi has done, and you take a look at those numbers, and those are very impressive numbers. The average in the 300s, RBIs, runs, and total bases, and then right there, the walk-off hit single in the shoe game last Friday. Frank, overall, during this 5-game period for Malachi Costello, what have you loved about him?
He's been that premier leadoff guy, Chris, that the team can ask for. You can't ask for much more, and we mentioned his name last week as the run generator on the squad. 333 in this series, as you just saw, but 338 on the season, leading this team in batting average. Coach Burke has a lot of options to turn to at the top and the middle of that order, but Costello has been that premier guy that they want rounding out the run support when you have the leadoff guys really getting on base, as they've been able to do since recently. But the bullpen has been the impressive part to me and this team recently. Over their last 8.1 innings of work over these last 2 games, despite the troubles, no earned runs allowed in those 8.1 innings. So the bullpen has really come together when the starting pitching has had some struggles. And obviously in the college level, you have PIAPs going on Friday nights, and then it gets a little bit troublesome after that on Saturdays and Sundays. Sundays they've been trying to figure out, and they had Saul Mata get kind of drilled a couple days ago. But after that, when the starting pitcher comes in and can't go that far, the bullpen has really been the piece that's come together and let really this league stay in where it is.
Now let's preview a little bit about the next series that's coming up. They obviously face St. Peter's, and St. Peter's 0-15 in MAC play, 4-29 as their overall record. What do you think Iona needs to do in this series? Obviously, it's a very, very favorable series for Iona. They would love the sweep, but another MAC opponent, again, they just finished off the Sacred Heart MAC team. What do you think they need to do in this series to kind of continue to build up what they've done thus far?
I think keeping the bottom half is going to be the consistent part for Iona that needs to stay hot, because the bottom of the lineup has been great in these last couple of games. You had, as you mentioned, Acevedo 3 for 4 in the last game. Nicholas Moore has been hot. Cole Sylvia, the outfielder, has been hot. When that bottom gets going and you swing it back to the top where you have Damian Rodriguez, one of your best hitters out there, waiting to move those bases around, it's getting hot for them offensively when the bottom is staying intact. But lately, the 5, 6, 7 has been the part where they need to strengthen up a little bit. Put some base runners on in order to get that bottom of the lineup hot. Now, in that St. Peter's series, this is a team where a relatively bad eye, St. Peter's leading the MAC in strikeouts and their bottom 3 in walks. So the pitching might have a better, fair series against St. Peter's, a team that struggles at the plate. But at the plate for Iona, that middle to bottom of the lineup's got to stay as hot as it's been.
And Iona looks to take care of business against St. Peter's for a 3-game set. Well, we talked about Iona baseball, Frank. Let's move over to some Iona softball, and what do you got on that for us?
Over at the top of campus, since we last met, the Gales are 3-2 with a sweep over Niagara and dropping a doubleheader at West Point. Upstate, the Gales outscored the Purple Eagles 20-3 in the 3 contests. Senior Haley Guerrero led the way for the Gales offense throughout the weekend, winning MAC Player of the Week. So congrats to Haley. On the pitching side, Gales pitchers Allison Hopp and Melissa Gordon had a combined 1 earned run through 18 innings. Elite stuff from the Gales pitching staff. Unfortunately, Iona could not keep their winning ways up at West Point, dropping their first game 4-0 and the second one in extra innings. The Gales placed 5th in the MAC and look to help their playoff chances Tuesday at Sacred Heart in a doubleheader. So, Chris, this team's had its ups and downs, and I mentioned Allison Hopp, who 4 earned runs over 19.1 innings of work. The Gales have only had 4 pitchers go up in softball, and obviously in softball, you don't have as large of a rotation, the bullpen's not as deep. Just the 4 pitchers this season, but Hopp, the opening day starter, has been just about everywhere, coming in to start, coming in out of the pen when the pitching gets a little south at the start of these games. It's been all great pitching for these Gales, but the hitting has gone a little bit down south lately.
Yeah, it definitely has. Right now they're currently batting, I believe it's 269 as a team, which is currently 7th in the conference. But like you mentioned, they have to kind of step up the offense a little bit. You brought up Brianna. Let's take a look at those stats just to show you what she's done in the game thus far, because it's just very impressive numbers. I mean, look at this. The average of the 500s. She's got the extra base hits, 2 RBIs, 3 runs, 3 walks. Just an impressive stat line through these 5 games. And I have the stat right here, currently leading the team in average. She's currently leading the team, and she's tied actually with Rachel Morales in RBIs. She's slugging over 500, so she's been doing very well in the past 5 games and overall throughout the season. What type of effect and factor do you think she's going to be for the next series that softball does have?
She's going to be getting on base in most of her appearances, and she's a beautiful blend of power and speed. She's got the 6 home runs and also 10 stolen bases, 9 doubles as part of her extra base hits trail that she's leading on. In the middle of that lineup in the 3-4 spot, she's getting on base at such a high rate, and you mentioned her batting average being so high, the highest on this team. On base percentage also phenomenal. But what happens in the 4, 5, 6 after her, like Brooke Acker, Haley Guerrero, they have to keep that momentum moving when Fisher's getting on, Sarah Pina's getting on, and as we mentioned last week, Lichner's getting on as well. So everybody in that 2, 3, 4 is moving. What happens after that? And the bats went quiet in this Army series. That was the problem for the Gales. It was a soft position that they were leaving all these runners on base. 17 runners were left on base in the 2 losses to Army. So the players were getting on, but what was happening once they were on base? Nobody was starting to migrate around those bases.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Just some stats. Iona's currently 5th right now in the conference. Sacred Heart is currently 8th in the conference. Iona is 1st in the conference with a 3.08 ERA, and then Sacred Heart is in 3rd with a pitching ERA of 4.09, and Sacred Heart's batting .251 as a team, which is 11th in the conference. So like you mentioned before, the pitching, despite having a 3.8 ERA, it's really, really good to have the top ERA in the MAC right now, and they're just going to continue to get better, and they're looking to take care of business against Sacred Heart. So it's going to be a fun series for both Iona baseball and also Iona softball. So we're now done with our Iona segment of the show, and let's throw it over now to our pro segment of the show. And we really haven't talked about golf here on Gael Zone, but we have to mention this. Sunday, April 12th marks the 2nd consecutive Masters title for golf icon Rory McIlroy, who endured a 10-year drought in the majors until 2025. The Northern Irish phenom became the 6th player to ever complete the much sought-after career Grand Slam. Although impressive, this year's victory came with a struggle. On the 18th hole, holding a 2-stroke lead, McIlroy drove the ball into the trees only to find himself in the bunker, and soon after putting for a bogey, overtaking the number 1 ranked Scotty Scheffler and claiming his right to sport the legendary green jacket for the 2nd time in his professional career. McIlroy now joins the ranks of PGA history's finest to ever do it. So impressive stuff there for Rory McIlroy. Let's turn it over to some baseball, and both New York teams are not doing great, but let's start off with the New York Yankees, Frank, and finishing up a 4-game set with the Angels. What do you got on that for us?
Well, the Yankees, coming off a 5-game losing streak, did indeed welcome those Los Angeles Angels to town. Game 1 was a slugfest headlined by baseball's two biggest stars, Trout and Judge. Judge hit a 2-run homer in the first, making it 2-0 Yankees. Jose Caballero followed with a homer, bringing in another runner to make it 3-0. The Angels punched back, scoring 4 straight runs, a Cilauro RBI double, an Adele RBI single, and an O'Hoppe RBI single, and a bases-loaded walk to Zach Neto. The Bombers responded as Trent Grisham hit a 3-run home run, putting them up 7-4. Mike Trout answered with a 3-run homer to tie it at 7-7. Judge then hit a solo shot, making it 8-7. Lau hit a sacrifice fly, tallying it 8-8. Trout struck again with a 2-run home run, pushing the Angels ahead 10-8. In the 9th, Jordan Romano came in to close. Trent hit a 2-run homer, evening it at 10-10. Cabby got on base and stole third. Romano threw a wild pitch, and the Yankees walked it off 11-10. Some may call it the game of the year, and after a thrilling opener, the Yankees lost Game 2 badly, 7-1. The Angels hit 3 straight home runs, looking like they were in a home run derby. The Yankees' offense stalled, managing just 1 run. The Angels capitalized on Ryan Weathers and Jake Bird to seal a 7-1 victory. Looking to bounce back in Game 3, Luis Gil took the mound, aiming to provide stability. The first inning saw Judge hit a solo shot to right field, making it 1-0. In the second, Trent hit a 2 RBI single, making it 3-0. The Angels didn't go easily. In the third, Frazier homered to cut the deficit to 2. In the fifth, O'Hoppe homered to bring them within 1. Mike Trout then hit a 2-run shot, giving the Angels a 4-3 lead. The Yankees' offense was quiet from the second inning until the 9th. In the 9th, Romano tried to close. Jazz hit a ball on the first pitch to Zach Neto and Oswald, which Peraza lost in the stadium lights. Wells walked both runners attempting a steal. Jose Caballero then singled to right field. Jazz scored, and Wells came on home from first. On a bang-bang play, Wells was safe. The Angels reviewed, but it stood as O'Hoppe missed the tag. The Yankees walked it off. Romano had 2 blown saves in 2 games this series. For the final game of the 4-game set, the Yankees gave their ball to their ace, Max Fried, hoping for a series win. Fried gave up a 2-run bomb in the first to former Yankee Oswald Peraza, making it 2-0 Angels. The Yankees responded, Judge homered to make it 2-1. In the third, Stanton's 2-run blast put the Yankees up top 3-2. The 6th inning saw a Peraza RBI double, a Vaughn Grissom RBI single, and a Josh Lau RBI single, making it 6-3 Angels. Ben Rice homered, cutting the deficit to 2. In the 7th, Mike Trout hit a long home run to make it 7-4 Angels. In the 8th, Joe Adele hit a grand slam to right field, making it 11-4 Angels. The Yankees now open a 3-game set against Kansas City tonight. Boy, was that a cinematic series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. This team started 7-1. I'm talking about the boys in the Bronx. And now they're 10-9 after taking just 2 of 4 from the Angels in that series. But before I talk about the Yankees' struggles anymore, I do want to touch upon that series specifically in the premier matchup between the former MVPs. Let's throw up a graphic between Trout and Judge and how awesome this series was to watch, especially between these two guys. You had 2 MVPs from the past, and both guys went on for multiple home runs throughout this series. You're probably looking at this graphic right now, and I want you to be clear. This is not 2017. Jose Altuve is not in the MVP race. This is 2026, and both of these guys are at the peak of their game right now. Just in this series, 9 combined home runs between the two of them. But one stat I do want to shadow at the bottom right corner of your screen right now, 4 home runs and 5 RBIs from Aaron Judge. What does that tell you about the Yankees lineup? 4 of them were solo shots, 3 of them were solo shots out of the 4. It was a struggle from the middle of this lineup to get on base for Judge to put power out there. And I think it's going to be something the Yankees have to work on heading into Kansas City.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Just Mike Trout, man, a lot of people really doubted him with all the injuries he's done throughout his career. Can we say that Mike Trout could be potentially back, Frank? I mean, he's taking this series and going back to Anaheim. But yeah, the offense just been really inconsistent. One day they're good, and then one day they're bad. One day they're good, and one day they're bad. You just got to find consistency in this lineup. And speaking of the lineup, Frank, one person that I think Yankee fans can all agree needs to be in the lineup every single day is Ben Rice. And call me crazy, but in a few years from now, Ben Rice could potentially be a top 5 first baseman in the league. He's been producing for the Yankees, and when he's not in the lineup, Yankee fans are complaining to Aaron Boone, like, this guy's been hot. Why is he not in the lineup? And there's to argue. You put Ben Rice over Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup, and that's what I feel like they need to do. They need to continually put the guy that's hot in the lineup and not, he's hot, then you just put him on the bench for 2 games, and then he's going to be cold. But, this is a stat that I just found out yesterday. Mike Trout, the first visiting player to hit a home run 4 straight days at Yankee Stadium. And then the Angels, as a team, they launched 13, yes, you heard me right, 13 13 home runs in the series. And this stat's going to be crazy. The next few lines I'm going to say. The most the Yankees have ever allowed in a home series ever. So in their entire franchise history, that was the most home runs they have ever allowed. So that's pretty crazy. But Frank, let's move over now and talk about this Kansas City series. What do you think the Yankees need to do to try to rebound after this Angels series?
I think I'm going to point mostly to the hitting that needs to be on top of their game, because I love the Yankees pitching right now, especially from the starter spot. You have Max Fried, who's leading the league in innings pitched. He's top 5 in WHIP. He's great in all really categories. 4 quality starts from him in his 5 starts. He's throwing them out like napkins at a Wingstop right now. But Cam Schlitter right behind him at a 2.49 ERA. Starting pitching's been great, and a lot of the home runs that you just mentioned have been allowed, especially during that series, were off Ryan Weathers. He had a struggle, but he also had 10 Ks in that same start. So strikeouts have been great for this Yankees pitching, and behind them, the bullpen hasn't been so bad. But the problem is that in this Royals series, a lot of prolific pitching is coming up, starting with tonight. Michael Wacha, who's a top 5 pitcher in baseball right now, most people might not even realize, but his ERA even better than Fried at .43.
Wow.
And his WHIP also phenomenal through his 21 innings pitched. Then they follow up with Noah Cameron, who's 5 innings pitched in all 3 of his appearances so far. And then they top it off with Cole Reagans in Game 3, who was a Cy Young candidate just 2 years ago.
Listen, if you have Michael Wacha on your fantasy team, I don't know what you're doing, but if he's available, I suggest you pick him up because he's going to probably deal tonight in the Bronx, and we'll see if the Yankees can rebound and have a very strong series against the Kansas City Royals. But, you know, I'm the Mets fan here, and things have been going rough, Frank, for the last 8 games, and we're going to talk about it right now. After being swept by the A's, the Mets went back to California to take on the red-hot back-to-back champions, the LA Dodgers. In Game 1, Justin Robleski was absolutely nails, going 8 scoreless frames and only allowing 2 hits for LA. He would get some help as in the 3rd inning, David Pearson left a middle curveball to one of the hottest hitters in baseball as Andy Pages would smack a 3-run bomb to give LA a 4-0 lead that would not relinquish. The Dodgers would win Game 1 4-0. In Game 2, we were on the verge of witnessing a pitcher's duel for the ages. Noah McLean versus Yoshibu Yamamoto, a showcase of the future in baseball. The Mets would jump out to a strong start off the back of Francisco Lindor's first home run of the season to give New York a 1-0 lead in the first. The Dodgers would tie it in the first off a fielder's choice by Freddie Freeman. The Aces absolutely dominated, both going 7 innings each. However, to the start of the 8th inning, the Dodgers got 2 on. Kyle Tucker would hit a ball that would drop in for a single to score Miguel Rojas. Fun fact, Alex Vesia was 1 ball short of an immaculate 9th inning. Final score, Dodgers 2, Mets 1. The series finale was one to remember for Dodgers fans. On Jackie Robinson Day, Los Angeles delivered a dominant performance, taking down the Mets 8-2. The Dodgers were led by a pair of home runs from the youth movement. Starting it off was Ha-Sung Kim to give the champs a 2-0 lead. In the 8th inning, up by 2, backup catcher Dalton Rushing would hit a grand slam to lock up the sweep for the Dodgers. The Mets, now on an 8-game losing streak, traveled to Chicago for a 3-game weekend set with the Cubs. Very disappointing. Very, very, very disappointing with this Mets team currently right now. On an 8-game losing streak, and I don't know really what else to say. Let's just take a look at the stats from these 8 games with this offense, just to show you how bad this offense is. And you look at those numbers, and oh my lord, they do not look pretty at all. 175 batting average, OPS not even above 500. The runs 12, the ERA, well, 5.77, and that has to do with the Oakland series with Kodai Senga and also the Dodgers series. Frank, you look at these numbers, they're not great. But what has gone wrong for the Mets thus far? I know it's early, but through these 8 games, this 8-game losing streak, what's gone wrong for the Mets and their offense?
I think this is one of the easiest teams in the league to diagnose right now in terms of their problems. The hitting is just not there right now. Nobody's putting bat to ball, especially at the top of the lineup. Your guys like Francisco Lindor, who you expected to be all-star caliber players, all batting under 200 right now. In fact, there's only 3 guys on this team who are above 300 in on-base percentage right now. It's Robert Jr., Francisco Alvarez, and then Jared Young, who's probably not even getting starts on most of your games throughout these series. So nobody's even realizing the impact that he's having right now. But the struggles have sincerely just coming in the hitting right now. The pitching hasn't been so bad, especially against the Dodgers team in this series where it really held its own, held the Dodgers to 14 runs through 3 games. And that might not sound so prolific. It's 4.5 or so runs throughout each game, but it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's a World Series favorite right now. The Mets scored 3 total runs in those 3 games. So really, 14 runs allowed, but the run differential was still 11. That just shows your offense is really stagnant right now. And we were talking about this team a week ago as though, wow, this is a bit of a rough stretch. Now suddenly, this is not a playoff caliber team we're going to mention. And I'm not here to overreact. That's not what we're here to do on the show, in fact. But for a team that's now last place in the NL East, you're having to think that changes are going to be made, and there's not much more they can really do right now.
And it was funny, we're talking about Mark Vientos. He's going to have a breakout series against the A's, and then look what he does. He goes to 0-for. I don't know if we jinxed him or not by putting that graphic on the screen, but like you mentioned, this offense, not competitive. Their ABs, they've just been lifeless. You know, they're swinging at fastballs right down the middle. And these stats, swinging more than 50% of pitches thrown their way. 37% of the swings have come at pitches outside the strike zone. And they have only walked 12 times. That is 4.4% rate. That is half their walk rate for the entire season. One person I really want to talk about is Francisco Lindor, and a lot of Met fans, including myself, are very annoyed. We know Francisco Lindor with the bad starts he's had. We know in his career with the Mets, he starts out slow and then he picks it up. This year, it's different, Frank, because yes, he's having the slow start, but it's also mental now. He's making simple mistakes that a veteran player should make. You know, we go back to the St. Louis Cardinals series a few weeks ago. Grounder, forgets how many outs there were for a double play, gets picked off on first base, adjusting his other mitt, and we probably would have won that game because Juan Soto hit a 2-run home run, solo shot, that probably could have been a 2-run home run if he didn't get picked off. And then he gets picked off in the Oakland series last week on Friday where there was some momentum there. And the thing that really just gets me mad is that in the Dodger series, he got struck out by Ohtani with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, and he's smiling, Frank. He's smiling. Your team is not doing great, and you're smiling at the opposing pitcher that just struck you out. I don't know. Frank, listen, do you consider benching Francisco Lindor? Because it's mental now. He's forgetting how many outs there are. You know, the hitting is whatever. But do you think Mendoza needs to sit Lindor out for a game and just cool his mind a little bit and take off the game of baseball for one game?
To be honest with you, if I'm sitting Francisco Lindor right now, it's probably no more than 1 or 2 games because he's a veteran guy and you know he's going to pick it up eventually. He is just struggling a little bit, and to the points that you were making, forgetting how many outs there are on the field. That's a mistake that a guy like him has never made. He's a Gold Glover. He's all around on the field. He's the leader of that team in the locker room and outside the dugout. It's just mistakes that you never would have fathomed him making. But I do think he's going to pick up his game soon, and I can't fathom really sitting him for more than a game. But we talked about how good this pitching has been. The starting pitching has made it 5+ inning in 7 of these 8 losses during this stretch. The starting pitching is getting deeper than you would like them to, but the bullpen has to come on when they're already in such a deficit that the hitting is never going to recover from it right now. And it's been a problem that Mendoza's have to work through. And a lot of people are going to get on Carlos Mendoza right now for the options that he's taking and how much he can really do with it. But I do want to credit him for trying everything that he can right now. They brought up Craig Kimbrell from AAA. He's got 2 scoreless innings in his 2 appearances right now. He's tried Tommy Pham. He's tried MJ Melendez, who's played 2 games. He's batting .500 right now. He's throwing every option they have out there. This lineup's just got to get hot eventually and start making contact.
Well, listen, they go to Chicago. Kodai Single's on the mound tonight for the Mets. Edward Cabrera for the Cubs. And Mets fans, hang in there, all right? I know it's tough. It's only 20 games or so into the season, but hopefully tonight they end this losing streak, put them to bed, and hopefully good things ahead for the New York Mets. But, you know, both baseball teams are bad, but you know what's exciting, Frank? New York Knicks basketball and NBA playoff basketball. Take us away from us and we got that for us.
Indeed, Chris, with how rough NYC sports have been in this month of April, there is this one hope at a championship, and it begins in that Mecca. The quest for the Larry O'Brien is underway, and the number 3 seeded New York Knicks look to be in the running for their first championship since 1973. Unfortunately, the Orange and Blue crew have arguably the most difficult run to the finals out of anyone in this Eastern Conference. Their run begins on Saturday at 6 p.m. versus the number 6 seed Atlanta Hawks. If they win, their next 2 potential opponents are looking for revenge. With the regular season coming to a close, can the Knicks finally climb to the top of the mountain, or will they come up short again? This Knicks team who's won 5 of their last 6 games heading into this postseason. And in that last game, nobody really played in that game, so it's really they've won 5 of their last 5 in which the starters were on the floor. But this Hawks team is pretty much what your middle school coach wished you were when you were playing for your middle school varsity team. They lead the league in assists per game. They're not playing ISO basketball. This is going to be a tough matchup for the Knicks to tackle. They're not fighting against a superstar. Best player on this Hawks team is Jalen Johnson, who nearly averaging a triple-double, just 2 assists away from doing so. But he's not a flashy guy. They move quick with pace. They're 3rd in the league in fast break points. Over 18 transition fast break points per game. It's just a lot of pace of play from this Hawks team. It's going to be hard to keep up with, but both these teams are very defensive-minded.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Last year, for the Knicks, 51-34, 3rd in the East. They've reached the Eastern Conference first time since 2000. Lost to the Pacers, but we'll just take a look at the head-to-head for both the Knicks and the Hawks, and you see right there the rebounds, the points per game, in the head-to-head, the Knicks have dominated really, but it's about Jalen Brunson, and overall in the playoffs he has 30 points per game, 9 games with 40-plus points. So really, it's going to be it's a team effort, Frank, at the end of the day, and if the Knicks can't win the championship or even make it to the finals and have an appearance, I think you can call this season a failure.
The thing that gets me with this Hawks team is that not only are they very underrated right now as a 6 seed, but the only time you've really heard Atlanta's name this season is talking about that Trae Young trade, and in a negative sense. Trae Young's gone. What are the Hawks going to do now? Are they even going to make the playoffs? They went on and went 29-15 since Trae Young left in early January. Not that Trae Young was playing a lot of games because he only played 15 total this year, but Trae Young was a big impact that everybody looked at as a negative when that guy left. This young talent that they pushed away, and they brought in his veteran presence, CJ McCollum and a couple other guys. I love CJ McCollum, and I think he's been great. He's averaging a little over 19 points per game, 4 assists for this team. He's the leadership veteran spot on this team at the point guard as well. You have so many options on this Hawks team to score. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's having the best year of his career, over 21 points per game right now. These two teams are very similar in a lot of statistics, as we just threw up on that graphic, but also very similar behind the three-point arc. The three-point percentages are very similar. The amount of attempts they're taking per game, very similar. The amount of work inside the paint they put together, awfully similar stats. So it's going to be a very contested matchup, but I could see this game easily going to 6 at least.
You mentioned, if the Hawks are actually going to even make it to the playoffs, well, post All-Star break, they had a 20-6 record and an 11-game win streak between February and March. So that just shows you how much oomph and dominance they have had coming off the All-Star break. Now listen, the Knicks are favored to win this. They must dominate early, like you mentioned. And look, we don't want to talk about future opponents, but the future opponents could be either Boston, and then you also have Detroit in there. But listen, forget about those teams. You have to win this Hawks series. You get the Hawks series done, then you can worry about your opponents. But it's going to be a very excitement atmosphere in New York, in the Garden. You can feel the energy, the excitement. And like I mentioned, this 2026 team, finals or bust. That's it. We mentioned so many times here on Gael Zone that is a goal for the Knicks. Can they do it this year? Can 2026 be the year that New York brings the championship back home? Listen, New Yorkers like us, the state of New York, we want to see a team win. Can the Knicks get it done? It all starts on Saturday for the chance to bring an NBA final back to New York and for an NBA final playoff appearance. So it's going to be a fun weekend for the Knicks and New York. That will be all from us today. On behalf of the entire crew here at Gael Zone, thank you so much for tuning in as always. From Frank LaBella, I'm Cilauro, telling you to take care, have a good weekend, and don't forget to get your homework done.